Yes, but I was telling so.
So, good morning everyone. Welcome all to this event. It is indeed a very important event, which is the report release on the study of the health and well-being of truck drivers in India. Thank you so much for being here today. AASTHA team consisting of PPHF, People to People Health Foundation, Kspire Solutions has been working for now over 3 years towards the cause of upliftment of truck drivers in India. It is already known to all of us that this segment of society is extremely critical for the economy as well as for our day-to-day lives. Considering the vitality of the matter, a research was sponsored by AASTHA to gather the important aspects on the health and well-being of truck drivers led by the Grid Council. Today, we all have gathered to release the findings of this study and to pinpoint the specific steps that all stakeholders must initiate to address the burning issues of the sector. Now I'll call upon Mr. Soumyakant. I'll just read a bit about him. Mr. Soumyakant is a member of Advisory Council, People to People Health Foundation. He has over 20 years of experience in supply chain and operations with expertise in cross-functional leadership, change management, implementing process improvements and skill development. He has exposure to healthcare, consumer electronics, FMCG, shipping and manufacturing sectors. Currently, he heads the Regional Supply Chain Excellence and Analytics, Greater Asia, APAC, Becton Dickinson, Singapore. Prior to this, he was heading the supply chain for BD Southeast Asia and India, and also worked with Nokia, Philips, Kevin Care, where he handled various supply chain business operations roles. He has also led global health for Southeast Asia apart from supply health chain responsibilities. Additionally, Mr. Soumyakant is an advisor. Now I'll call upon Mr. Soumyakant to please take over.
Yeah, thank you, Usman. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining for this event. We have been, as Usman shared, we started this almost 3 years as a forum, which is a voluntary forum called Asia-Africa Supply Chain Health Transform Alliance, which is led by Professor Prashad Yadav, who is a Harvard professor who chairs this. And the idea was to look at the humans of supply chain and the last mile. And when we wanted to look at the last mile of supply chain, the most critical component and the strongest part is this humans, which are visibly invisible, which means they're there, but we don't see them. And that this design done by Sumit, who is in this, it basically depicts, as you see in a black and white, this is the life of a truck driver. Why we wanted to do this is that it's not only about truck drivers as a transaction, but also as a part of the society to bring a social equity into the system. Truck drivers run through hardships. They don't want their children to join the profession. A lot of these problems are known to us, but the intent was to make it more action oriented. So we want to drive this as one of the advocacy and also action oriented work on the ground. So we started with vaccination. The idea is to look at truck drivers not as a challenge in terms of like the way they have been looked at in the past is, how do we avoid, have HIV, and truck drivers have looked upon in a different way. But here we want to look them as partners and part of our social system in looking at how do we make this profession more sustainable and bring respect and dignity. This is the bigger element which we wanted to capture and help them. So in that process, we did a campaign for a 1 million vaccination, for the 1 million truck drivers vaccination 2 years back. And Dr. Palo, the PPHF, I support PPHF as a volunteer. We faced the various challenges. And where do we reached out to industry, we reached out to government in terms of getting them as essential workers, but that was something which didn't happen. But eventually, with a proper partnership with the government and the trucking association, we could vaccinate 25,000. I think there was a lot of work done, but that is where we realized how ignored are this segment of society. Well, everybody wants to do, but on the ground, they are on their own. As an example, the truck insurance, or the insurance for truck drivers, is one example which we also wanted to highlight as to, do we really insure them for their entire life, or do we look at only when they drive the truck? So there are various facets to it, and from there we actually on December 10th, the World Human Rights Day, we had a session here in the same place where we got the truck driver as panelist. We said, okay, let's begin with us and make them, and they sat on the panel, and we did interviews and discussion co-hosted by Anup, along with truck fleet owners, company supply chain leaders, and we had a very holistic discussion on what the challenges. When we did that, we did have a lot of documented evidence on what the challenges are: harassment on the road, whether it's a lack of efficient parking system, taking care of their family. So there are various gamuts of a supply chain. So we wanted to focus on keeping the truck driver as the center of the ecosystem, not truck driver as a transaction. So keeping the truck driver at the center, we thought of starting a survey, because survey validates a lot of our assumption or hypothesis. There are a lot of secondary research available today in the industry and also globally. And when we did the survey, it's a mix of qualitative and quantitative. So when we did a quantitative, scientifically done, we looked at around 200 drivers spread across the country. We could have done more, but the messaging was all coming out as similar outcomes. When we went deeper into the qualitative part, looking at supply chain leaders, some of us here in the room, looking at fleet owners, looking at corporate stakeholders, and see that what are the common threads which is coming out. And this 6-page summary is a snapshot of it. There's a 30-page or 40-page document. So what we wanted to share is that as a group, we will have to move it forward. It begins with me, it begins with us, and it's not government alone, it's a partnership. And how can corporates, civil society, and government come together to make this profession respectable? If it is respectable, then it is sustainable. And then all other parts of the well-being are all the outcomes. There are contrast of speed. I think today the industry wants speed, but we want to focus on sleep, the sleep versus speed. How do we balance it out and yet have this profession? So accidents are a cause because there is speed and there is lack of sleep. So we want to focus on well-being. That's being one of the examples which we will highlight. I will let the survey dissemination summary being discussed during this session today. But I wanted to bring up this context and also thank the people who are associated in this in the last 2 years. But to also let you know that there will be a lot of action around this space to make it happen. And I know the ecosystem is also working, and as this group, we will definitely take it forward. So I'd like to also invite, in the table today, in the dais today, Dr. Laxmikant Palo, CEO of PPHF, Mr. Anup Khandelwal, CEO of Kspire and also founding member of AASTHA. I would like to invite Mr. Suresh Vedula, who has been, from Google, but he has been also associated with this movement for a long time, part of technical advisory. And I'd like to invite Mr. Archishman Mahapatra, who has been part of this research, and he's read the Grid Council, who did the survey, and we started doing it for the last 6 months, from December till today. And from industry, we have Mr. Umesh Madhyan, who leads the supply chain visionary group, which is a large association of a lot of supply chain leaders in the country. He also is a vice president of Coca-Cola. So with that, I like to hand over to from the book from the AASTHA Secretariat for the research and the survey reports. Yeah. So we will now release the research dissemination study on health and well-being of truck drivers in India from the AASTHA Secretariat. So, thank you for coming to the dais, and Anup, I'd like to invite Mr. Anup Khandelwal to take over for the next session.
So, thank you, Somekant, for this grand opening and setting the context, and kind of making it very clear that something needs to be done for this segment of society, this important segment of society, and people like us have to take a lot of pains and initiatives to make things happen. We cannot just rely on the government or the authorities only to do their bit. I'm sure they are doing their bit, but I think as the members of the society, from the corporate, from the fleet owners, and from the academia, from the medical sector or development sector, all of us have to work hand in hand to bring up this sector. So, carrying on the proceedings, we will now, I'll request Dr. Archishman Mohapatra from the Grid Council to run us through the research and present the research findings. And there are also some recommendations to the corporates, recommendations to the government, recommendations to the civil society, that what all needs to be done. So thereafter, we will have a panel discussion where we will have members from the relevant groups, and we will kind of pose the kind of questions to them, so that whatever research has kind of some findings which have come out of the research, whether they kind of match up with or they kind of tally with what the corporates and the other members of the society feel. And important is that thereafter what is what we have to see, that how do we decide the path forward from here. So Archishman, welcome to you. Please come over.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Anup, for having me invited on this dais, and thank you, dear audience. My thanks to the entire panel on the dais. This entire study has been a very learning experience. What we started out with was a very typical public health kind of approach to this story, and I, being a full-time public health researcher for the past more than 10 years, approached it as a problem that required a resolution. Now, is the problem very well defined? That was the basic premise with which we started. Then we discovered that it's actually a systemic problem. So it's not just a single stakeholder that has a problem, but a whole system that flows together and is quite integrated with one another, and you can't really attack a problem and resolve it outright. So is the problem well defined? No. Is the solution clearly defined? No. Is this a systems approach that must be taken? Yes. Is there an element of design thinking going into it? Yes. We initially started out imagining this as a massive quantitative study. But when something is very prevalent, do you need a large sample size? When your pot of rice is already cooked, do you need to press all the grains to understand that it's cooked? No. So you had to reposition yourself. Now the repositioning had to be in terms of a qualitative approach. You need to have a quant approach, because that will sort of say that, okay, things are transitionary, things keep evolving, and this is the situation across India. But the qual thing will string things together. The other aspect that we found is this sector is too unorganized. So even if you have a very massive sample size, do you really get power across all the stratum? No. You don't get adequate power. Coming out of a pandemic, this had become all the more difficult to say that a hardcore quant design will resolve it. So we thought that we'll go for a multi-stakeholder qualitative approach, sort of learning iterative approach, and that's why we constituted a team that had all the different disciplines coming together. So I'm thankful for the AASTHA network for giving the umbrella PPHF for anchoring it. Then we have Dr. Anup and Mr. Dash coming in with those supply chain and research, corporate research approaches, and all the participants who joined hands and helped us understand this problem to greater details. And I also thank you for coming in together as we present this study, which may be thought of like, okay, this is a more qual, less quant kind of approach. But as we present, we'd invite your feedback so that we use it as a validation. Usman, is my slide loaded here? हाँ? नहीं वीडियो
प्रेजेंटेशन है
प्रेजेंटेशन
ये वाली
हाँ this one. So it's initially a team of researchers. So I have my colleague Divita, and in absentia I would acknowledge Dr. Ritika, Dr. Priyanka, Dr. Bharati, Dr. Shikha, who joined hands at multiple instances, and we went forward and we did some review of literature. That's the usual way we start with, right? So we did a review of literature, and we found that India's, and coming from a medical background, we would not understand road transport, supply chain to that extent. And this was a bit of revelation, maybe mundane knowledge for you. But what we found is India relies heavily on road transport, local freight trucks, and that the trucking industry is growing, but more and more trucks are idle because they don't get enough drivers. And then there is some problem there connecting these things. The trucking profession is very demanding. Yes, it is. And I had some knowledge of it, that it is demanding, yes. But more from a medical point of view, we always thought of like truck drivers, HIV, truck drivers, STI. We did not know that why would they get those things, right? So it is a demanding thing. And of course, occupational. I had some readings into occupational health. I knew that truck drivers, ergonomics and all, you'll have musculoskeletal problems, lifestyle issues, yes. But then it's both physically and mentally demanding. And that's where the intersectionality comes in. So when you have just physical issues, you can resolve. When you have just mental issues, maybe you'll address. But when the both come together, how do you address? Now the major challenge is poor working conditions. Can you do something about it? Not really. Like you can't be the sole flag bearer. It has to mobilize the entire society. Organizational structure, it's not organized. Insufficient funding. In a resource constrained setting, everything is underfunded. And lack of proper infrastructure and comprehensive healthcare programs focused on truck drivers, yes. So this is one study from KPMG. They have identified some problems, enumerated some problems with the management lens. Then there is this paper which said that, okay, they do not have access and they do not have adequate utilization of health services. In the health literature, published, not the grey literature, in the health literature, very few has been published on truck drivers apart from HIV, other issues. So general approach to truck drivers' life has not been studied adequately. Now, could the lack of drivers, so we thought that, okay, there is a problem, the trucks are idle, they don't get enough drivers. Could this be just because of unattractiveness? If it is unattractive, then what is unattractive exactly and what should be done to make it attractive? And what are the possible ways forward to ensure that they have a healthier, safer and more prosperous life, not just for themselves, but for the families. And of course, we know that if the truck drivers are good, they drive safe, we are safe on the roads. And of course, if we get good supply of truck drivers and their performance goes up, then the overall national economy goes up because everything is dependent on road freight. So those are certain other dimensions which came. So gradually it was like an onion peeling off, health peeled off, social issues coming in, economic issues coming in, business coming in, politics also partly. So multiple layers gradually coming through. So we put some objectives. We said that, okay, what are the major challenges? Let's go and identify. What are the priority services that they need? Okay, we'll explore. And then should we go with a hypothesis? Like what is that extra thing that would do? There are some reports which have already said that truck drivers are facing problems. But what is that extra thing that we could do? So we said, let's start with this hypothetical thing. Let's have this evidence-informed recommendations for a one-stop well-being center. So this was like utopian dream, that everything under one roof. Let's try it. And Dr. Anup, we all went out to do some pre-testing of the tools. Initially, we had this, imagine, we had a very thick bunch of quantitative questionnaires, and we went to meet some truck drivers, and we sat down in their office, and it was COVID, just we were coming out of a COVID, small office, no ventilation, nothing. So it was typical transport corporation office. We sat down, very heavily crowded. There was a laptop on the desk, but I do not know if the laptop works or not. Most of the dealings was on a feature phone. It was not even a smartphone. So the person in that office was managing the trucking business and was talking to truck drivers, and it was mostly like interpersonal. Hats off to that person's memory. Like he would remember everything and he would interact with so many truck drivers. That was a new experience for us. And then that coming out of it, we thought that, okay, we are getting it all wrong if we're planning a quant. Let's do it a qual. But we need different reference points. So we went to north. We chose this Palwal, Ballabgarh, Faridabad line. So truck drivers on that. And then we went east. Dankuni is a place which has sort of like too many trucks coming in, and then Jagatpur in Odisha. Dankuni in Bengal, Jagatpur in Odisha. We went south, so just on the outskirts of Bangalore. And then in the west, we went to Vasai, Thane. That's the area. We could not go to the hilly regions, northeast. We could not go to Jammu Kashmir. I know that's another terrain. Then we try to capture different spots on the Golden Quadrilateral. We took 35 drivers from each side so that we have some good sample size to make estimates with something that has very good power. Now people would say that this number is less. If something is very prevalent, like you get sun rises in the east, how many days do you need to observe? There are stars on the sky, how many nights do you need to observe? So if something is very prevalent, you don't need to actually, if you got good scientific understanding of sampling, you don't need sample sizes in thousands. It's very prevalent up on your face. So we thought that, okay, we'll have representative, 35, 35, 35 from each side, 175, good enough, we're getting very good power. We get a very good prevalence, good precision, talk in terms of confidence intervals, that's where the point estimate would lie. Eligibility criteria, of course, 18 years and above. We know that you don't get a DL below that. Full-time employed, should be driving long distance, and then should be having an experience of at least 1 year, and should be consenting to participate. Now, consent is an important thing. From the papers that we saw, from the things that reports we saw, we did not see that they had taken any ethics clearance also. Now, this is a vulnerable group, a high-risk group. Do you have ethics clearance? We approached this study after the protocol and the tools were reviewed by the ethics committee of the Indian Association of Preventive Social Medicine. That's an authority. So the proposal was fully vetted. The tools, consent forms and all were vetted. Everything was done with due anonymization, utmost respect to dignity, privacy, and confidentiality. Now, all those quality parameters went in. We took out the data and we took it to Excel and Stata, the usual way to, and we did some stats on that. On the qual, we had, this is the quantitative thing, we used handheld devices, and then the preferred location was on the highways where at least 50 trucks would stop by, and then the investigators were trained. There were internal and external quality assurance visits done to them during data collection. These are some of the photographs. Personally, we as investigators also went into the field. It was scorching heat, like 45 degrees. I remember the day. The phone would not work. You switch on the camera, the phone would get switched off. So some photographs we clicked. We did some interviews also. So we spoke to them. We had a tool, but we also did some scoping around it. It was open-ended. We did focus group discussions. And then we also did some key informant interviews. Now, who is a key informant? Key informant is someone who knows everything about the story. So if you have a very good journalist, you talk to him. Now, it's very difficult that you do a research and you know more than a journalist. Now, journalists are foot soldiers. They're the investigators. They know it day in, day out, right? So if you talk to a journalist or you talk to a book author who is writing on truck drivers, they'll know everything. Nothing new for them. But for the research academia, yes, it is new. It's primary data that is speaking for itself. We spoke to key informants. We saturated, like we had trucking companies, fleet owners, we had corporate users, we had transport welfare associations. So we did all of that and tried to triangulate information. And that again was from different cities. So bring in as much heterogeneity as you could. The standard approach is focus group discussion. Design thinking says go for the unfocused groups, so that you have richness of information. You talk to the people who are usually not captured, right? You capture the outliers. We did that. And then this is the qualitative approach we did, and then we got some findings. The sample size was very finely, like well balanced. We did not get any significant difference between those who are like too old, like above 40, or people who are like in the 20s, 30s, and 31 to 40. So balanced age bands. And then experience. We looked at the quality of the data. Mean age 35, plus or minus 9, finely distributed. Sample size adequate in terms of like its distribution, dispersion. And then we found that majority were married, 84.2%, and then some were like majority of the solo earners of the family, but they were on hired vehicles. So they were the hired employees. They did not own the vehicles they were driving. Years of experience, you'll see that they captured, like the data captured 1 to 5 years, that's one age band, going up to more than 15 years. And all India permit with multi-state permit, different education profiles. So the data has rich, the heterogeneity is good. At the same time, not very overwhelmingly weighed towards any particular category. Looking at the health issues, now this was a bit of revelation. We know that you'll see the figure, pain, musculoskeletal issues, we know it. Acidity, stomach issues, yes. Fatigue and sleep issues, yes. Vision related problems, respiratory problems, we know it all. The thing is that even the truck drivers also know it, because it's not a doctor going and checking up and declaring a diagnosis. These are self-declared. So if the truck driver is saying that I have these problems, then you should ask, what are you doing about it? And the answer is no, I don't care about myself. It's sort of like absolute self-neglect. It's not that they're not aware of these issues. It's like you don't have that self-caring or self-esteem to go and visit a doctor also. You're downplaying yourself. And we applied this health-related quality of life tool. It's a validated tool. In the previous surveys, we have not seen this tool being used. It's something that gives you on your face some scores, and we found that 75% had physical health issues and 60% had mental health issues. Now, and 54% had both. Now this is like, out of 100 drivers, 50 drivers are going on the drive with both physical and mental health issues. So that means just by writing medicines, you will not resolve. You need counseling services. You need broader psychological support systems. Those things are not there. Now consider this particular thing, this particular quote. It speaks a lot. Read between the lines. My back hurts a lot. The pain aggravates when I drive for long hours. I don't give importance to my ailments. If I have medicines, I consume. Else, take some rest on the way. We truck drivers do not have time or facilities to go to the doctor, get the checkup done, and follow up with medicines. Also, if I spend so much on doctors and medicines for ourselves, my family will starve. Let's sample this particular broad system challenge that they're facing. 9% we found they had possible insomnia. Now a driver, out of every 100, 10 drivers, you'll find 9 to 10 drivers were driving without sleeping. They have a sleep problem. It's not that they don't have time. Even if you provide, they won't be able to sleep. Now that's the permanent damage that has happened to their lifestyle. They are having insomnia. Now, if it is like, how do you establish causality on a cross-sectional design? Then you ask, like, do you see trends? Yes, we found that if you find the correlation between the age of the driver, number of years that person has been driving, does the prevalence of insomnia go up? Yes. You're getting a strong correlation. So it's the occupation that is causing this damage. And you see this extreme fatigue, and then the concern, like security of the truck, of the goods, concern for my family. So things beyond yourself. Do you seek care? Routine health checkup? No. Provision for health checkup available? No. Fleet owners say that yes, they do provide. Truck drivers do not appreciate that. There is lack of time and opportunity to visit a doctor. My health conditions are not important, they're minor ones, symptomatic treatments will fix it. That's the approach they have. I would not spend on my health. That's the underlying reason. Do you have hypertension? Only 3% say yes. Now, how can truck drivers have, just 3% of truck drivers would have hypertension, and the usual prevalence is around 10%, 20%. Hypertension is 20% around. Diabetes ranges from 7 to 15%. Truck drivers say, only 3% say that they have diabetes. That means they do not even know that they have hypertension and diabetes. Personally, I went out to meet a truck driver. That person had stroke, like half of his body is paralyzed. He had stroke in childhood. His face is also tilted. He's driving a truck for the last 20 years. How do you allow that kind of a driver to drive? But he's driving, and that's his livelihood. And there's no fix also. More than 57% of the drivers said that they do not have a first aid kit in the truck. How many of them would even know that there's an expiry date also if they have a kit? Right? How many of them would know that this is a painkiller or something? The reason that you find those Tiger Balm and all selling near dhabas, that's the reason you find the truck driver asking for those drugs, those medicines. Self-neglect, inadequate awareness. What a combination. Now you have working condition lifestyle. You drive for 10.8 plus or minus 2.7. That means 68% of the data would lie something from 8 hours to almost 14 hours. That's the usual. 5 minutes, yeah, I'll wrap up. I just get carried away with I'll wrap up. Now, and you stop 5 times about, and then you have food and rest and restroom issues. Theft and robberies, risk of life, staying away from the family, bad weather, those are things you can't really do anything. Those are occupational hazards. Plus, some life-related hazards. You don't get sanitation, bad sanitation, emergency services lacking, general health services lacking, health issues, etc., etc. No washrooms. Interesting that they use smartphones. Why do they use smartphones? They watch YouTube. Now you have some technology access to them. That's the good part of it. That's why we have this slide. They are on Facebook. Your truck drivers are on Facebook. You can connect. Maybe you can create communities of practice. And they have WhatsApp for video calls with the family. Now they know it. Okay. Job satisfaction? No. Harassment, low and irregular income, lack of family support, fatality, no dignity. 87% say that do not have a family life. This is usual. Even corporate people say that do not have a family life. Work-life balance is challenging. It is also challenging for truck drivers as well. Now income, we observe something they're earning around 25,000. 10,000 of which is ऊपर की, पेट्रोल बचा के. 15,000 is official, 10,000 ऊपर की है, उसके लिए गाड़ी भगानी पड़ती है. बाकी और 10,000 मिल जाए ना तो लाइफ बढ़िया है. वो दे आर एस्पायरिंग फॉर दैट एक्स्ट्रा 10,000. 40,000 अगर एक महीने का हो जाए तो लॉन्ग ड्राइविंग ट्रकर्स के लिए सही है जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन. इंश्योरेंस, ट्रकर्स बोल रहे हैं दे डू नॉट हैव इंश्योरेंस. हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस, एक्सीडेंट नहीं है. फ्लीट ओनर्स कॉर्पोरेट से येस वी हैव सम एक्सीडेंट इंश्योरेंस, व्हेन वी परचेज एन इंश्योरेंस वी प्रोवाइड इट टू देम. तो प्रॉब्लम कहाँ पे? यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग, you are saying that you provide, they are saying we don't get. What really is happening? That means they don't understand what is insurance. Either there is no coverage or no awareness about insurance. And then situation अगर पूछो fleet drivers and corporate users से, problem is very well identified. List of things that we have written down. The corporate owners, the fleet owners, corporate users, all of us know what the problems are. Similarly, there are a range of mitigatory things being done. Pura list, the entire list is on the brief that you have on your table. It's a long list. Many initiatives are underway. The impact and scale, the coverage is questionable. But yes, this is only in the structured trucking industry. Majority of it is unstructured. Now, one-stop center, yes, you can have it. We'll use it only if you popularize it. Now, you try and beat the traditional ways. We have our local dhabas where we'll stop. But your one-stop has to compete with that, plus the economics part of it and the scale. Secured parking, quality meals, restrooms and washrooms, health and emergency services. Those are the priorities. You put an information booth, very good. And some vehicle repair and refilling centers, wonderful. Those are certain expectations, very basic ones. Now, there is a consensus that this will work. One-stop service centers will work. We have enumerated all the aspects of it in the document. But there are some challenges also, maybe because of the real estate intensity and then the locationing, strategic location. Those are two things. Funding, maybe some CSR funds if they could come up, if the government becomes empathetic, things will work out here. Now, these are again broader areas. They said that dignity and respect is lacking in the society. Do something about it. Do a behavior change management of the society. Do a behavior change management of the trucking industry. Do a behavior change management of the truck drivers as well as the fleet owners and corporate users. You need to change everyone's behavior then. It's a whole of society, whole of government, sector-wide engagement. Nobody is going to fund that kind of initiative, but if someone does it, maybe we'll see an impact. Now, these are certain suggestions. I think these will be discussed in detail in the panel, right? Yeah. Right. So I'll stop over here. Over back to you, Doctor. Any questions? Yeah. Sorry. I was rushing through the time. Any questions? Okay. So we can. Yeah. Please. Yeah.
How many hours they work normally the batteries?
The truck drivers, yeah, we found it. No, 10.7 plus or minus another 2.7 is the standard deviation. So if you consider 95% confidence, that means you subtract 4 this side. So 7 hours to 14 hours, 15 hours. So that's the range in which they drive.
And this 17,000 monthly income is a official or it's including other?
It's a range.
I'm asking the 17,000 monthly income.
It's a range.
Officially like monthly salary? Or
No, Dr. Paolo, I'll tell you what is happening. Now it's a structured, if it's a structured industry, you get an official salary. If it is unstructured, then the Babu managing the story understands कि यार ये तो पेट्रोल चुराएगा, इसको थोड़ा बहुत कुछ ऊपर के दे के रखते हैं. हाँ, और आजकल now this thing has happened like over the last 4 months, things have like priced up. So the usual puncture जो 50 रुपए में होता था ना, आज 150 रुपए लग रहा है. So the truck driver is not saving much. So truck driver is not able to save money, which he would otherwise like cheated and saved. So crunch hai. So it's an human relationship, very nice human relationship between the manager and the truck driver. The manager is empathetic. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to have a clarification from you. Have you tried to correlate the global phenomena? Because you have mentioned in your opening remarks that 40% of the trucks on any given day remains idle. So what's the global phenomena? Whether it is around that or because if that is around that, because in US and Canada also it remains on the same lines on any given day. So is it making any difference in if the trucks are idle at any given day?
2-3 things. From a researcher perspective, Indian trucking industry is different from elsewhere. But we have a quotable quote. A person in the supply chain who has worked in the developed world, in the Middle East and all, we have not put it here, you will find it in the document. Maybe, yeah, edit hua hai. I have stayed in the US, I have worked in the Middle East, I have worked in Australia. Nowhere I see this thing happening. Only India has it. This kind of unstructured, indignified treatment of truck drivers, and then the day-to-day balancing of income and employment. So if you're looking at the qual aspect, there is a difference. If you're looking at the quant aspect, maybe outsiders, personally, I have not visited any of those countries from a truck survey perspective. Maybe it's structured, maybe more structured in the developed world. Nepal may not be different from us. Does that satisfy to you to any extent? Maybe the supply chain experts will be able to answer.
From the supply chain or from the quality aspect, I wanted to ask what is the rate of being idle the trucks on any given day in other countries? Have you tried to correlate with this? Is that the phenomenon? For example, you have mentioned that 40% of the trucks on any given day in India remains idle. They are not planned. So what's the global phenomenon?
No, sir. This is our study was like Indian focused. We have not. Maybe you can answer.
So there are two parts. Basically, one is asset utilization from percentage of ideal time, which is not more than 4 to 6% outside India. The other critical part is that all these countries outside India have largely double drivers or more than double drivers per truck. So there the norms are a little stringent. For example, Australian norms are governed by the Australian GPS systems, which does not allow beyond 8 hours. So they say if your 8 hours done, you should actually park it in the side or go home or sleep or do whatever you want or hand it over to another driver, and the another driver logs it in. So shortage of drivers is a global phenomenon. It's there in India as well. The problem between us and them, the difference rather, is that we are on single driver and suffering shortage. They are on double or more drivers, have started to suffer shortage. But asset utilization is not that bad outside India, because one study which I saw was if we do 300 kilometers per truck per day, an Indian trucker transporter is very happy about it if he continuously does 300 kilometers per truck per day. This average for Australia is 450, For Germany is 500 plus, for US is close to 600. So that's the scope which we have. That's the another part of asset utilization which we don't do probably.
So thank you so much. Over to Dr. Anup.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Achishman, for this interesting presentation on the entire journey of the study which you conducted over the last 2.5 months, and the interesting findings from this survey and the study. So before we proceed, we have got a video, so we will run that video, which actually kind of shows us what's really happening on the road.
COVID-19, just the unprecedented crisis or the catastrophe of the century. Even extreme adjectives may fail to explain the extent of damage it has inflicted on us. But amidst all the limitations, life in a restricted manner has still moved on. We as consumers are still getting our essentials. There is a larger supply chain involved in making essential items available even in this crisis hour. And at the fulcrum of this mechanism is a set of working hands we are used to largely ignore, the truck drivers. We do recognize the efforts of medical fraternity, the cops, and also people from the media in doing their duties in such a difficult phase. But have you heard anybody praising the drivers in keeping the wheels rolling? Not here in our country. Forget about appreciating them. They are in fact subjected to all kinds of exploitation or even cruelty while on the move. And there is no dearth of such cases which point out to the disparaging fact dignity is seriously amiss in the lives of truck drivers, even as they are probably the most vital cog for keeping the wheels of the nearly $3 trillion economy moving. Many would vouch that their functional positioning in the national economic value chain will only become more critical as the country is now chasing the dream of becoming a $5 trillion economy. In all fairness, the government today recognizes the pivotal positioning of the road transport sector and the imperative to overhaul it on all fronts, especially creating a better environment for the truck drivers, who are responsible for carriage of over 60% of the national goods. And this includes daily essentials for a mammoth population of over 1 billion.
इस क्षेत्र में लगातार बड़े बड़े प्रयास हम कर रहे हैं, काफ़ी परिवर्तन कर रहे हैं, पर ये सब काम आपके सहयोग के बिना नहीं होगा। ट्रांसपोर्ट की जो ओनर्स हैं उनका भी योगदान चाहिए, ड्राइवर का भी चाहिए, कंडक्टर का भी चाहिए, ताकि उनको क्लीन इन्वायरमेंट मिले, उनको अच्छा फूड मिले, उनको अच्छी तनख्वाह मिले, उनके हेल्थ से रिलेटेड या उनके बच्चों की शिक्षा तक के सब सुविधाएं उनको मिले।
But talk to those who are behind the steering wheels and their sense of despondency will strike you immediately.
कोई भी अगर दुर्घटना गाड़ी से होती है या कोई बात होती है तो गांव हो या देहात हो या शहर हो, लोग आते हैं सब मारो 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 करते हैं, हमें कोई सहायता नहीं मिलती किसी चीज़ की भी।
ड्राइवर को ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाले जगह जगह परेशान करते हैं, वो एंट्री मांगते हैं ड्राइवर से, मालिक लोग देते नहीं।
हाल तो यूँ ड्राइवर को कुछ मिलता नहीं है, बस यूँ तवाई पिट रहा है बस, अरे बात तो यूँ है।
The abject feeling of being a marginalized section with hardly any hope of a better future is the underlying sentiment. The findings of a recent report unveiled by Save Life Foundation testify this. Over 50% of the drivers are dissatisfied with what they do. Over 90% do not get any social security benefit. Only 1 out of 10 drivers has received any formal training before entering in the profession. An average long-haul driver is holding the wheels for over 12 hours daily. A staggering over rupees 48,000 crore bribe is collected from them at toll booths. And 84% of the drivers say they will never recommend driving profession to their family members and friends.
1 in 5 drivers that we spoke to, 22%, admitted to drug abuse to be able to stay awake and to be able to drive long distances. So we are staring at a situation where there is a lifeline of the country that is taking medicines, food, supplies from one part to the other, but we have completely failed to provide them the kind of dignity and the kind of facilities and basic care that would ensure that this process and this group remains sustainable longer term.
On the health-specific front, the report has disclosed equally disturbing facts. Backache, joint, muscle or neck pain, constipation, gas problems, headaches and dizziness are some of the common problems they have to face, often from an early age. The proper resting places across the country's highways are few and far between, and therefore everything about their working life is irregular when viewed from the prism of decent existential standards. Nothing surprising, even as the transportation sector has significantly grown in the post-liberalization era, the vehicle driver ratio has consistently gone down. According to an estimate, while in early 1980s the number of truck drivers per 1,000 vehicle was close to 1,300, it has now come down to less than 800. And this depleting volume has begun to pinch the businesses, as an estimate pegs the total volume of truck drivers being a little above 5 million against over 8 million freight vehicles plying on Indian roads.
2016, where the asset utilization of trucks dropped down by about 10 to 15% for the lack of drivers. In 2018 in season, what we have experienced personally as one of the largest logistics in the country in FMCG is that about 25% of trucks were actually standing on the roads for want of drivers. So all the drivers have somehow vanished, and the pain point is the balance 75% of drivers. If you interact with them, try to understand what's happening, you would come to know that they don't even want their own children or their own relatives to get into this profession of driving.
In the first time of history of India, logistics is on the verge of coming into prominence because of the Make in India, GST, all the other economical factors that point that India will be the third largest economy, etc., etc., etc. How do you move these goods when we don't have the people to move the goods?
There are different theories on the extent of hit the industry has taken in the recent years. The slowdown in economy, improved axle load and lack of employment generation may have saved the day for the time being.
Now as it is, truck utilization is down by 25 to 30%. So even if that shortage is there, it is not felt that badly. But when the demand picks up and drivers have some other opportunities in the rural India itself, then they may not come for driving, and that time situation may again worsen.
While the working environment for drivers is full of fault lines, the salary standards seem to have improved when it comes to the hiring by organized players, both on the LSP side and the end user industry.
In general, industry is taking care well of the driver, and a driver income or driver earning has also increased. They may not be getting a direct paycheck of monthly 25,000 rupees, but they are not earning less than 25,000 rupees per month.
कंपनी से PF भी है और ESI भी है और हर चीज़ यहाँ से फैसिलिटी है, खाने की भी है, सब चीज़ की है. बाहर क्या है? बाहर कुछ भी नहीं है.
The report by Save Life Foundation also confirms this, as it says that 53% of the drivers are drawing a salary between rupees 10,000 to rupees 20,000 per month, 10% above rupees 20,000 and a bigger 1% above rupees 30,000. Lack of dignified life is resulting in their falling numbers, which is also contributed by the fact that as much as 85% of fleet owners have less than 5 trucks in their kitty, and they hardly have any interest in extending better working conditions to the pilots of their vehicles. Nothing surprising, there is a clear disruption in the generational baton transfer in this epic scale unorganized business in the country. New generation is keener to align with opportunities in retail, cab operations, door-to-door delivery, etc. Now let's move to the other extreme, a truck driver giving...
The rest of the video is consisting of basically the question answer which the panel discussion would cover. So what we'll do, we'll have a 5 minutes tea break. You can bring the cup of tea to your desk, and then we will start the panel discussion. Thank you.
ये गलत वीडियो लगा दिया है ये था किया ही नहीं है ये था सर
वंडरिंग की ये for joining back. So we will now have the panel discussion, and I'll have the pleasure of moderating it. So we already have Umesh Madhyam on the dais. He's the VP Supply Chain of Coca-Cola India. We also have Suresh Medula on the dais. He's got a little bit of about, Suresh's introduction. He's got 3 decades of experience working in business development, sales and people management across IT, telecom. He has been associated with leading firms such as Wipro, Nokia, Google. He's also an angel investor and likes to work for social causes. So we've been fortunate to have Suresh joining in this group. And then I would like to call upon Dr. JVR on the dais. So he's been the, JVR please, President and CEO of HCL Infosystems, and he has been on the board of HCL Infosystems for the last 18 years. He's a mentor for the startups. He's associated with the Deshpande Foundation and the Sampark Foundation, Indian Angel Networks, and National Institute of Social Sciences, and many more. So probably the paper will run short. So we are lucky to have JVR with us. And I would also like to call upon Mr. Vijay Rai. He's a program manager from Wealth, Hunger, High Life. Vijay, please join us. And I would also like to call Mr. Ramkesh Jangra. Ramkesh, please join us. He's from Ericsson, supply chain lead at Ericsson. So Ramkesh has over 20 years of experience in the industry, in the supply chain area, and he's worked for companies like Nokia, Hewlett-Packard, and now is with Ericsson. So we will start the panel discussion, and I would like to first go to Mr. Umesh. So Umesh, you've been associated with this cause for a long time, and then we believe Coke is also taking lots of steps for mitigating this, some of the issues around this sector. So what are some of the new initiatives which the corporates are doing, or the Coca-Cola India team, or at the worldwide level they are doing?
Basically what Coke is doing in India is a little different from what industry is doing. So I'll try and cover both. So from a Coke trying to understand rules, regulations of about not only in the premises but also on the roads. So e-learning is what we call it. As a part of that process, then we extended that e-learning to insurance, because when we realized with COVID, the primary reason for drivers to be away and going back to either farming or agriculture or that kind of profession back again was broadly guarantee of income, what he touched upon in the morning. So they wanted that guaranteed income. So it was not too much of getting back from COVID or the COVID medical insurance, but it was largely when I am in COVID, I am away for 2 to 3 weeks at least till the time I recover. So how do I fund for that gap for my family? So we did an insurance, specially curated insurance for them, that if somebody gets into this, they are protected for X amount immediately within 24 hours of their reporting a RT-PCR positive. And that's how it started. And then we took it forward by realizing that actually insurance is a larger area of gap. We also did a small, not that exhaustive, but a small survey in few of our markets to realize what is it that we can do for the driver to prefer Coke as their preferred employer or customer. So we realized insurance was a big part.
Big problem, yeah.
And they are very worried on what happens on the road, what happens to my family if there is an incident or a fatality. And it's very cumbersome for them to go through the process of insurance and do all that. So they wanted something very super simple, basic. So we offered that kind of solutions with our partners. And those solutions we right now offer to every driver who comes in. And it's included, it's a part of our cost, it's a part of our, in a way you may call it CSR or whatever, but that's something which we feel responsible for. So that's the softer, larger influencing part which we do. Now the other part is also, how do we make their lives a little simpler? How do we also do the yard turnaround time a little predictable? And what do we do if the driver comes in, he has not rested for the last 10 hours? Like we saw 7 to 14 hours is the time he works. So if he has taken a trip which ended 2 o'clock in the night and he is back again 8 o'clock in the morning for the next trip, do we offer them? We should not. So initially we were in this dilemma, how do we say no? Because there is business as well. What do we do if we say no? Because he's anyways going to drive the truck back home, right? Or back to somebody else, take some other trip and go back on the trip. So we started building driver resting rooms in the plant facilities. So today for us it's a norm, it's an audit norm. Every facility will have a driver resting room. Whenever we find that the driver is under fatigue, he goes and takes rest. Whenever we find that the driver loading time is 4 hours from now, and he'll have to wait for 4 hours, we give him the restroom. He goes and takes rest in the restroom. There are facilities like basic water, charging sockets, so on and so forth for him to do that. So these are basic things which we are doing in parallel to investing in a lot of technology to ensure that there is a turnaround time which is faster. The waiting time reduces, which of course helps as a business case as well for any logistician, and it also helps in the driver health overall, and his time of activity reduces that much as well. So these are a couple of things which we are doing. Is it enough? I am sure not. There's a lot to do. Like you saw one of the driver in Dasna, one of our plants was commenting that there is everything in the plant, but what happens to me when I go out? So I think this respect part is a bigger issue which we need to address, and that's not going to address in rooms like this. There have to be a larger intervention from the government ministry which we'll have to do probably. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Umesh. Thank you. Thank you for the some of the pointed actions which Coca-Cola is taking. I'll now move to Suresh. Suresh, you come from the technology background, so there have been, lots of comments from the fleet owners, the drivers that, there's a lot of, harassment on the road, a lot of, hardships which are there in the physical sense, things like, what happens on the road, how the information system can work. Can the technology help around this? Or what are some of the things which you think are happening or can happen in the technology to kind of mitigate issues on the road?
Yeah, sure. First up, I think the logistics industry is already pretty technologically savvy, right? Over the last 40, 50 years, especially in India, forget the rest of the world. I think the huge amount of investments are gone into unlocking all the value that is there, remove the inefficiencies. I think the industry as a whole has invested huge amount of money. We've seen it. Many of you have been in the industry for the last 3 decades or so. How internet and digital technologies have improved the overall industry. But the only point I would like to highlight is the ecosystem is all focused on the trucking industry in general. But in my opinion, a limited opinion, the trucker himself or herself is not really an integral part of the technological revolution. What do I mean by that? So all the innovations in technology, be it telemetry or better cabs, better vehicles, better axles, better fuel efficiency, goes to improve the profitability either of the fleet owner or the corporate customer that employs them, right? As we discussed a while ago, even today, the situation of the individual person who drives it has not really improved a lot. And that's exactly one of the things that probably where the technology can intervene. And there's already examples, the last 13, 14 years, we've seen how Uber and Ola have actually improved the likes of the drivers' overall efficiency. I know the last 2 years have been a challenge for them also thanks to COVID, but prior to that, we know how it was. Most of our Delhi guys used to struggle to get a Kali Pili taxi, you had to go all the way and get him.
Mm-hmm.
And many a time they wouldn't even bother to come after calling them. Whereas, the tap of a phone, you get a fantastic Uber or Ola coming at your doorstep. And significantly improved salaries for the drivers at least until 2019-20 period. So I think that's exactly where I think we can make a difference to the trucker. There are a couple of, and probably in my mind, 3 things come up where further intervention can happen. Financial well-being, insurance, that Umesh talked about. I think also micro health or primary health. There are 3 particular areas coming out of the report that technology can intervene in. And we can probably elaborate on that, but fundamentally, how do we provide access to finance? Is it working?
Yeah.
How do you provide better access to finance to these people? Someone who's earning 17,000 rupees and struggling to make some cash on the side. We know less than 5% of Indians actually have access to formal financing, despite the Jan Dhan JAM triangle that has been obviously deployed over the last 10 years or so. So is there an opportunity for technology to be used to provide focused, dedicated, trucker-led financial intervention? Insurance, I think some of the corporates like Coca-Cola have obviously, thanks to the global exposure, have taken a lead in providing insurance, but like you said, once you step out of the factory and you move to private sector, I don't think a lot of insurance, I think the report bears the fact that 66% of the drivers don't have a basic access to insurance. So there's an opportunity for technology to have the last mile to provide at a very low cost of insurance to the trucker, even when that person leaves the truck and goes home.
Okay.
I think there's a need to get technology, and there are financial institutions and insurance companies willing to provide that. We need to find that last mile. And finally, of course, access to health, which is fundamentally what this whole report is all about. Can we have along the highway access to low cost of health? Even if we cannot have state-of-the-art stuff, by just providing a very basic blood test or other sample tests, and then deliver the health parameters to the truck driver later on the smartphone. I think these are some of the 3 or 4 interventions, in my opinion, that can make a significant difference to technological innovations and eventually lead to maybe even a 15 to 20% improvement in financial earnings capability of a truck driver. We can elaborate further through other questions later.
Thank you.
That's where I would pause. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much. I will now turn to JVR. JVR, you've been in the industry for many years, and then you've also had the privilege of working in the education sector, in the manufacturing, in the corporate social responsibility portion. What would you've kind of seen the whole scenario which we have painted, Dr. Mohapatra has painted. What, in your opinion, could be the few key steps which maybe the authorities can take, or the corporates can take, or the CSR funding which has not been so much in this sector? What can be done to kind of address these issues, bring in the CSR funding or other interventions?
Thanks a lot for the podium and also for inviting me into this dais. I really feel, in my view, it is very, very well kept secret. Not many people are aware about after I'm hearing from you all, I understood the type of depth of pain that they all go through. Some time back I was working in South. At that time I have seen these truckers' welfare being addressed by some pockets of the company like Southern Roadways, which were insistent that between 11 to 4 in the morning, no truck will move. And they were monitoring it through their tachograph, and they were also monitoring the speed. Irrespective whether their truck is involved or the other fellow hits it, he is suspended. And they were taken on a small, like whatever you are talking, they were taken some rooms, for their truckers to stay at from 11 to 4. They had a clean bed and a mosquito net and hot food, whatever time they reach. They have to inform the next office and they'll park it and then they go to sleep and then move on. And they also made their trucks lighter through the various other things, through softer sides than metal bodies. Now I'm seeing several of them, like Mr. Anup was saying, how will people will come to support this program? Some of them are voluntary activities, some of them are from corporate responsibility, some of them will do it, but that will be trickling. It's not going to be a great intervention. If we have to support this movement and make it nationally, in my view, this is a state and center subject. Several of the issues are related to state and it cannot be dictated by center. It is not a central policy. But central government gives guidelines and they ask them to adhere to it. And also, if you are looking at the CSR funds from the government and from the private it is possible, but just now people are all coming out of the COVID and their losses and the manpower, and now the new set of issues have come with just now they are coming up, and also the inflation being high and also attrition. So many other issues are also going to come up. So the private side, yes, we may get, corporate side we may get, but on government side, PSUs, etc., it's going to be a little bit tough challenges, because last 8-9 years I've been following it up about the CSR funds for some of these activities. And first it was followed by Swachh Bharat, then followed by the toilets for the girl child, and then it started with supporting the COVID, the last 3 years supporting it, etc., and then going on. And this year also many of the public sectors are going ahead with the Prime Minister's guidelines, than very less money is left for any other uncharted, these are all not listed as priority with them. So in my view, if we have to do it, the people will do it. We have to think of 3 ways only, with whatever is can happen in a short term, next is in middle term. On a long term basis, I think if we can make it into a advocacy followed by a policy and make it into a regulatory, it will fly very, very fast. I'm sure Mr. Suresh can tell. We did this when we were planning to do it in Nokia, when it was totally handled by the basic operators. From there it came to a distribution network, and then we saw the highest growth in the telecom density. This is an economic activities. India is planning to go to 5 trillion economy. Unless these things are set right, it will not go. My feeling is we should think of an advocacy as a policy. We should make it advocacy followed by a policy and make it into a regulatory. Who are the people who are involved in this regulatory? The most important point is IRDAI. Now today a lot of things are there in the regulatory industry, and recently Dr. Devesh Panda has taken over, and he has got a lot of grip on idea about, because he comes from the industry itself, and later on he was there in the government BFSI, and now he is handling the IRDA. The reason why I am saying IRDA is lot of truck drive funding is happening by all the public sectors, insurance companies or private sector insurance companies, and these are high value. In other words, ticket size is large, and they are very particular that the repayments is also happening, and they are much more worried about if there is any accident or if there is anything going out of the road, then naturally the owner will not be in a position to repay it, etc. This is one area where we think we should do it in a bigger way. So, and also there are accident and loss prevention board is there in every public sector insurance. It's a big amount of funding for supporting this campaign, etc., which is not utilized properly by them in an effective way. If this can be brought in, I think all the insurance companies also will be looking forward to take it. And a lot of good work has been done by Save Life Foundation, which several of the data which I can see Dr. Tiwari's statistics also, if that also can supplement the amount of losses that is happening, the number of accidents that is happening, especially when the roads are becoming wider or more naturally speed is also galloping speed. Naturally accidents. I mean, this fatigue. I think an impact study, if it can be made, it will be very, very great. And certainly we can look at the social awareness of this also is not known to many of them. And what I could see it in the last few years is whenever I have taken it up, I am talking on behalf of some of the other less known things like Deshpande Foundation for startups and also for supporting the semi-arid crops, supporting the ponds for in the cooperative movement. Government response from the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation, Ministry of Rural Development, very, very high. Same thing will happen here. If we can come with some credible logic and statistics, and if we can give them, they are all willing to listen. I am sure Ministry of Surface Transport, the minister is very, very dynamic. Among all the ministers, he is the one who is far ahead than the rest of the things. I don't think if he can be made convinced, I'm sure he will be the leading spokesman for this movement to happen. And similarly, Ministry of Health, Ayushman Bharat, all these things are also becoming bigger and bigger. The study by some of the leading consultants, and if you can make an approach paper, and there are a lot of parliamentary committees are there in the road safety or Ministry of Service Transport, etc., which they are coming from various backgrounds, and if you can give a presentation to them, meet them, and then do, and if we can make pointed starred questions on this parliament, automatically it becomes an actionable point in the agenda of the ministry, etc. And also Niti Aayog is coming out with a lot of such type of thought leaderships, and they are involving themselves with various other ministries, interrelated ministries. And they themselves are, there is one person who is doing it under the new CEO, now he has come, and what is the advantage of that is we always have the gap between center and state and etc. If this can be made into a Niti Aayog plan, it gets not only reviewed by the CEO of Niti Aayog, and then it is followed by the state chief secretary and also up to the district magistrate or collectors, and it becomes every month or every quarterly it can get reviewed and actionables can be defined both state and center. That's one point I was thinking, and also there
I'll come for the second round here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so there are
sorry to
thought leaderships are there. The round table should be thought through with inter-ministerial things in Delhi, and I'm sure a lot of other like Lions Club and Rotary clubs are also willing to take this type of things.
Thank you. Thank you, Divya. Thank you. Yeah, Ramkesh, thanks for coming over. So I believe in our discussions you were mentioning that some of the professionals are getting together towards this cause. So can you please explain that what some of the your circle has done, and then what kind of private ownership is coming, what kind of corporate involvement is coming, and how this this initiative can help the truck drivers on the road.
Thank you, Anup, for inviting and bringing up such an important issue of truck drivers' health, safety, respect, and human right security at this platform. I'm sure this will.
I want in 2-3 minutes.
Yeah,
fast.
This will go long. During COVID period, I was sitting with my 2 or 3 advocate friends in Gurgaon, and we were discussing our individuals' life and careers. They were totally 20-30 years in legal fields, and mine was totally background into supply chain. Then we were discussing over a cup of coffee that how we can collaborate. Then it's quite a different words. The legal field is different and supply chain is different. But then one day today we thought definitely we should look into it, and we come out with an idea. Let we collaborate and we do something for truck drivers. What we can do? That many times truck drivers are along with the conductors, and they are far away from their office, 500 or 1,000 kilometers away. And when there is any incident, whoever is at fault in accident, by default truck driver has been kept and they have been beaten, manhandled and mishandled by the local people or police, whoever it is. Their thinking is by default that is truck driver's fault. Then we thought we can do something illegal. How? Then we decided let we make a pool of advocates across India. Then we make a concept and we enrolled 3 advocates from each districts, which are around 73 districts in India, and we are making a call center in Gurgaon. So as wherever there is an incident, then truck driver will call to head office, and any person from authorized person from truck industry will call the call centers, and within hours the systematic call will go to advocate 1, advocate 2 and advocate 3 if there is no response from advocate 1 or 2. And aim is the advocate should be as incident balance within shortest possible time, so as there is no any further loss to the life and machine and material. And we will safeguard driver and material and machine to take all legal access with police and courts and get all these 3 on road. And further if there is a legality, then it will take in due course of time. This is the concept we have tried in 2 big transport companies.
Good.
And in the last 8-9 months, and the result is 0 FIR.
0 FIR.
0.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is still under trial. With the commercial we will launch, I will discuss more with you on this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is a very good initiative. So I come to Vijay. Vijay, you come from the the development sector. So can you quickly give us an insight of? We have heard that a lot of programs are taking place in the child health, maternity health. What is happening in this particular area? Any initiatives which you think are happening?
Not only happening, first we have to understand whether it is important or not, because as per your report only, it states that more than 59% truck drivers are facing psychological problems. So whether it is important, it will be having an impact on the corporates, their working, their functioning and their results also. So first we have to understand that, and I am basing my comments based on my interactions and training of around more than 3,000 truckers when I was working with IDTR, and I trained them on safe health practices. That's based on those, these are my comments. We have to come up as because as my co-panelists have also mentioned, it's an ecosystem. So in ecosystem, each of the part has to be working at an appropriate and approximate time and at their efficiency. Then only we will be able to collate the ecosystem. I'll just try to sum it up in 3 parts.
Yeah, if you can quickly.
Because what I will try to focus is on 3 aspects, that is how we can improve the truckers' conditions and how different stakeholders are also doing like that. One is knowledge aspect. Can we improve, can we retrain those healthy behaviors into them through some of the aspects of training. There are different training institutes like IDTR, Institute of Driving Training and Research, which at every year, whenever there is a renewal of their license or permits, all the truck drivers have to mandatorily go under a 3 days training. So can we incorporate these healthy lifestyles trainings into those training institutes? And these can be, IDTR is supported by Maruti, so that is corporate initiatives. So can we do like these initiatives and can scale it up? The second thing is behavioral aspect, because it is very important. And it can be supported by owners of those truckers, unions, can we do, and corporates also. So, my co-panelist, he was mentioning that they have providing them at their plants, the water and sanitation facility. Can they open their health centers also for these truckers, so that whenever in case they are facing any problems, they can access those health services at their plants only, where they spend around 8 to 10 hours daily while waiting for their goods to be downloaded or uploaded on their trucks. So can we provide those services as a corporate gesture? So as well as can we do ensure that all the truckers in union or who are associated with these corporates or logistic companies they should go mandatorily annual health checkup, so that these, in case there are certain diseases, they can be filtered out during those annual checkup. The third aspect, just summing up, is on practice. Can we group them into peer groups, so that they are also learning from those, what are the good practices, where they can meet up. So, we have all alumni associations and different support groups. Can we also make these peer groups of truckers also, where they can get those knowledges? They are accessing WhatsApp and other things. Can we do some messaging on those WhatsApp, usage of social media? So that's some, coming up. And
thank you, Vijay, very much. So I'll just, sorry we have run out of time, so I'll just summarize some of the discussions which we had in the panel discussion. So Umesh mentioned about the insurance initiatives and other initiatives which Coke is taking, and driver resting rooms and other facilities which they are providing. Suresh mentioned about the technology and the especially supporting them into the with the finance and insurance support, and JVR mentioned about the the CSR funding, which can now be diverted after the focus has shifted away from COVID, and advocated the the bringing of the IRDA into picture and make it from regulatory in nature. And Ramkesh, you did mention about the legal support, which is a very good idea, and I think some of the harassment which the truckers face on the road, and the target of zero FIR I think is very good. And Vijay, you mentioned about the improving of the ecosystem to for the upliftment of the drivers, consisting of knowledge, training, behavioral aspects, and the other aspects which are important. So I'll like to thank all my panel members for the valuable suggestions, and we will, at the end of this, we are following up with kind of a summary report on this, with some of the actions which will be taken, and we'll draw upon your experience and your availability to take this cause forward. Thank you so much. And I'll now invite Dr. Palo to just say a few words and vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all the panel member and the great team doing this research and in hot summer. And my journey personally, into this domain in last 2 years when the COVID started, a lot of learning for me personally, coming from more public health experience and understanding more holistically this truck driver's life is really a good journey. What I understand, we have more concerns, we all show that concern, okay, we need to do more for them, but we are doing little. That's where we have to shift our approach, all the stakeholders, because everyone is saying that we are doing this, we are doing this, but where is that coordination and the more integrated action that is missing? Probably this is one of the way that probably these action points need to be taken forward. The second things, there are many things are happening, and a few things are more ad hoc basis also. Few things, and we are more funding based approach, where we have a very limited period. So we have to shift and see a more kind of a larger view, holistic view of the whole issue, and more stakeholders, and maybe AASTHA could be one platform to bring them and do more kind of common agenda action ideas together. Second, everyone has a role that we have been defined, and this report also talks about. The idea, this dissemination of these key findings is just starting point. How we individually and collectively can take this recommendation to the next level, that's what. Otherwise, every study we do a good dissemination, it ends over there. I think our journey starts from here, how we can go. Maybe some action points, some kind of groups that many recommendations also came. Let us take that and see how we can take to the other critical stakeholders who are missing this today in this meeting also, take them and just do more actions together. That's where we can come up and the idea of one-stop dream. Let's see how we can work together on this. And thank you everyone for participating and taking. I request the disseminate this report through your network, and also some of the key meetings with ministry and other key stakeholders will take forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paulo, for the concluding remarks. Now, our next event will start in next 20 minutes. So, meanwhile, you can we have a gallery, so you can have a gallery walk, and you can networking, and you can also take pictures around. There are good flowers. So, next 20 minutes you can join back. Thank you so much. Please. So welcome back. So this event is called Honoring COVID Response Partners. So we had a discussion like 6 months back with Dr. Palo, where we decided that all our COVID partners should come together, you know, because they have done exemplary job. On one hand, the donors by donating, and hospitals, you know, the way they implemented everything, and because it was a test of time that we have to do everything within, you know, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because it was, you know, there was dearth of time, and the objective was to, you know, contribute and to, you know, like contribute to saving lives. So I'll just read out the script. The COVID-19 pandemic has arguably been the biggest disruptor for human life in living memory. Never has a single event, political, economic, social or health related, changed the paradigm for the entire human race as has the pandemic and the ensuing months. The pandemic was initially predicted to challenge the health system across the globe, and so it did. The deadly virus brought attention to the scarcity of, you know, inadequate adequate resources to take on the pandemic. The onus was on the health organizations like us to come forward and fill the gap. Through our sources, we got the request letter from different hospitals, and the most pressing need at that time was oxygen cylinder, oxygen concentrator, or anything oxygen, and apart from the beds and other supporting equipments. So PPHF as an organization with its multiple partners took the challenge in their stride and started catering to the needs of various government and private hospitals with the help of all the donors, our donors who are here and who could not be present here. On this very day, we honor and thank all our COVID response partners who have helped during the times of uncertainty. These people have relentlessly worked towards the society and helped the people who were in a state of instability during the pandemic. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to felicitate you. Thank you for being here. We have, you know, the leadership and, you know, management from organizations and hospitals who are here today present for this event. It's a very small event, but it's a very special event. You all are here. We thank you very much on behalf of the whole team. CEO Dr. Palo, we thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Yes, so let's not forget those who were with us while during the pandemic. Our team members, Ms. Cheena Malhotra, Ms. Megha Gupta, Mr. Anil Pandey, Mr. Viswajit Kumar Pankaj from our Jharkhand team, Mr. Balbir from our Punjab team, so who all are not present here right now, but they worked at that time and they were there. So all of them were on field. I can tell about my team and other, so we have our donors who were there on the field to see the implementation and how it was going on, and to, they were always there to help to accelerate whatever help was needed at that time. Okay, so we had other hospitals also, like in Guwahati, Jharkhand, Bangalore. There were various hospitals we supported, but they couldn't be here today for this event. So they have sent their gratitude messages. I would like to play that first.
As we all are aware, COVID-19 has ravaged the whole world, more so India. As we all are aware, COVID-19 has ravaged the whole world, more so India. During the COVID first and second wave, when the whole society was at risk and it was ravaged badly, we at Sir C.V. Raman Hospital, we improved our health infrastructure through the support of the government of Karnataka so that we could take proper care of the patients. It was during this time that People to People Health Foundation, they came forward and established a healthy partnership with us. People to People Health Foundation, through their partners, LG India Private Limited, Bosch, Goodera and Garrett, they have helped us in setting up a state-of-the-art 25-bedded fully functional ICU. I thank LG India Private Limited for being the sole company to set up a fully functional 25-bedded ICU with state-of-the-art equipments and also central monitoring system, which you can hardly expect in a government hospital. I also take this opportunity to thank Bosch for having come forward at the earliest to give us 10 motorized carts with full function ICU beds along with 10 BP apparatus, 50 pulse oximeters, 5 wall-mounted oxygen thermal scanners, and also a PPE shredder. The contribution of Bosch has gone a long way in giving improved services to our patients. I also take this opportunity to thank Gudera and Garrett for helping us in supplying 10 state-of-the-art 5 functional motorized cars. Thank you all.
During the COVID-19, Mahindra & Mahindra came forward to help the Guwahati Medical College and Hospital as a CSR, and I must thank them for their contribution during this pandemic, which helped us with establishment of a unit for the COVID with 50 beds, 50 mattresses, and all the linens required, as well as the other ancillary furnitures or equipped for the 50-bedded wards. So I must thank them again that condition of the COVID-19 from the Mahindra & Mahindra was the service of the mankind, helped us a lot to cater the need people of Assam as well as the Northeast during that COVID pandemic time. Thank you once again, Mahindra, and in future we expect same line of activities from your end for the mankind. Thank you.
कोविड-19 के दौरान में महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा कंपनी की ओर से पीपल टू पीपल हेल्थ फाउंडेशन के द्वारा सदर अस्पताल चाईबासा में कोविड कंट्रोल के लिए बहुत सारा मदद की गई थी, जैसे कि सेमी फॉलर बेड 50 यूनिट मिला था और बेड शीट वगैरह दिया गया था, ऑक्सीजन कंसंट्रेटर दिए गए थे, आईवी स्टैंड दिया गया था, वाटर फिल्टर दिया गया था, पीपीई किट दिया गया था। इस तरह के बहुत सारे जो इक्विपमेंट्स दिए गए थे उनका भरपूर हमने इस्तेमाल किया और रोगियों के इलाज के लिए ये सब काफ़ी मददगार साबित हुए। और कंपनी जो ये सब हमें एड उपलब्ध कराया, इसके लिए हम महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा और पीपल टू पीपल हेल्थ फाउंडेशन का थैंकफुल हैं। धन्यवाद।
On behalf of our Kosha Hospital, I would like to thank Cognizant Foundation who has supported to COVID hospital, which is implemented through People to People Hospital Foundation. They have donated so many equipments and disposable gloves, disposable gowns and N95 and equipments like bilirubinometer, CPAP circuits and venti circuits, glucometers with hospital. All these equipments supplied by People to People Health Foundation are very useful. I once again thank again for their generous support. We look forward to similar kind of help.
So you saw the videos. Thank you everyone. Now without much ado, I think we will move on to this felicitating ceremony. I would like to invite upon Dr. Shri Ranjan. Please come on the stage. He is ex-IAS and member of PPHF Advisory Council. So firstly, I would like to call upon stage Shri Naresh Kumar, IRNG General Secretary, Maharaja Agrawal Hospital, and Dr. Deepak Singla, Medical Director, Maharaja Agrawal Hospital, who are here. Thank you sir for being here. Please come and collect. Yes, sir. Sir, आगे आ जाए, आगे कर। सर आगे आ जाइए सर इधर। यस सर। आइए वाला काफी। So this was Maharaja Agrawal Hospital. Next in line we have representative Dr. J.K. Saini from National Institute of TB and Respiratory Diseases. Dr. J.K. Saini is the nodal officer of COVID-19 and is a chest specialist. Thank you for being here, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Shiranjan sir. Thank you, sir. Please take a seat, please. Thank you. Now I'll call upon Soumyakant ji to please come and do the honors. Please come. Soumyakant sir is PPHF's member advisory council. So I'll invite, we have Dr. Vikas Dogra from Rajiv Gandhi Super Speciality Hospital. He is the nodal officer COVID-19 and head school of pulmonology. दो है सर. Dr. Vinay is here from GTB Hospital. Thank you, sir, for being here in time. Dr. Vinay Kumar is here. Sir, please. सर ने हम लोग की बहुत मदद की, फ़ोन पे बताते थे क्या करना है और सारा हम लोगों ने बहुत जल्दी सारा काम कर लिया. Please, Dr. Vinay, please. GTB Hospital. ठीक है सर. ठीक है सौम्य सर, थैंक यू सो मच. नाउ आई विल कॉल अपॉन अनूप सर टू प्लीज डू द ऑनर्स. So we have from Cognizant we have Mr. Mukund Garg, Chief Operating Officer and Center at NCR. Please come, sir. From Mahindra Rural Housing Finance we have Mr. Abhishek Kumar from Mahindra Rural Housing Finance. So sir has come from the Lucknow team. Thank you for being here, sir. He is the regional head business Uttar Pradesh. Thank you for representing Mahindra Rural Housing Finance. Thank you so much for being here. और कोई क्या? ठीक है सर, अब रुकिए ना. We have Neeta ji, please come on. From LG we have LG Electronics. We have Miss Neeta DGM and Miss Deepika Kugredi AGM. So this is the result of constant follow-ups. You see important people like sir and everyone here. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. Oh, is Mr. Subrato Sarkar here? Sir, Mr. Subrato Sarkar is here. He is Delhi Circle HR Mahindra Finance. He is representing the team. Thank you, sir, for being here. Sir, Mr. Rakesh and Ms. Natasha Wadhwa from Signify. Sir, please come on the stage. Next we have Virendra Shaktawat CSR, Hero Motocorp Limited is here from Jaipur. Big round of applause from people who have traveled distances to be here and for this small but special event, as I say. Thank you for being here, sir. Sir has been on field trips with us several times. Thank you for being here today also. From LNJP, we have Dr. Suresh Kumar, we have Dr. Basna, we have Dr. Arvind. Thank you for being here, sir. The biggest collaboration we had was with LNJP. We had set that at Ramlila Maidan, the COVID wards. So thank you for being here. Dr. Suresh Kumar, Medical Director, LNJP, Dr. Basna, Deputy Medical Superintendent, and Dr. Arvind. Everyone is here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for organizing a wonderful function, and as a team work with your support and the support of Delhi government, we have successfully treated more than 25,000 COVID patients, highest in the country. 8-hour medical college and hospital, we had 800 deliveries, including 390 cesarean section, more than 3,000 dialysis. So it was a very tough time, very challenging time during last 2.5 years. Still we have around 35 patients and 14 this black fungus, post-COVID complication patients, 50 patients still admitted. So this was a tough journey, but you all are winner, and we hope that we were successful in winning the heart of people, and many deaths we have prevented by very effective management, by doing good work, and all of you are now a real hero of this pandemic. Thank you once again for great support, and thank you all the doctors of National Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Naresh Arenji, who is the trustee Maharaja Agrasen Hospital, to please come and say a few words. Thank you, Anup sir. Sir, 2 शब्द बोलेंगे.
धन्यवाद. सबसे पहले तो मैं इस सुंदर फंक्शन के लिए पीपल टू पीपल हेल्थ केयर जो हमारी के उनको बहुत दिल की गहराई से धन्यवाद करता हूं, क्योंकि आजकल ना सभी वैसे इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं चलते हैं, लेकिन जब से कुछ वातावरण देश का बदला तब से हिंदी बोलने की बड़ी इच्छा होती है कि हिंदी बोलें, हिंदी से पहुँचे. तो सबसे पहले तो मैं इनका दिल की गहराइयों से सभी का धन्यवाद करूँगा, इतना सुंदर कार्यक्रम किया और हमें बुलाया. और उसके बाद मैं हीरो कंपनी का, जिनके द्वारा मैं बता दूं कि सबसे पहले एक संस्था है हमारी महाराजा अग्रसेन हॉस्पिटल चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट. इस संस्था के अंदर लगभग 1835 हमारे ट्रस्टी हैं और एक दूसरी हमारी संस्था, उसमें हमारे 6000 ट्रस्टी हैं. और शायद ही पूरे भारतवर्ष के अंदर एक ऐसी चैरिटेबल संस्था होगी कि जिन्होंने अपने पैसे इकट्ठे कर कर एक मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी जो लगभग 5000 करोड़ रुपए हम आज तक इसमें इन्वेस्ट कर चुके हैं, समाज के द्वारा बनाई गई एक संस्था है कि पूरे इस हिंदुस्तान के अंदर एक ऐसी संस्था है कि जो चैरिटी में विश्वास करती है. और ये जब से पीपल टू पीपल ये हेल्थ केयर वाले हमारे से मिले और इन्होंने हीरो कंपनी से हमारे को, ये पहली बार होगा कि एक तो इन्होंने हीरो कंपनी ने हमें जो आवश्यकता की चीज़ें वो दी, क्योंकि कोविड के बाद जो सिनेरियो चेंज हुआ है देश के अंदर, वो सिनेरियो हेल्थ के ऊपर बहुत बड़ा उसका एक असर है. उससे पहले सभी संस्थाएं बढ़िया चल रही थी, लेकिन कोविड के बाद हमें आवश्यकता थी और उस टाइम पे हमारी मदद की. और इसके लिए मैं एक बार अगेन पीपल एंड पीपल हेल्थ केयर वालों का, पूरी इनकी टीम का, डॉक्टर उनका सभी का दिल से फिर धन्यवाद करूंगा कि इन्होंने हीरो कंपनी से हमारी जो मदद कराई, इनके लिए भी दिल से धन्यवाद. और मैं दोबारा एक बार आमंत्रित करूंगा कि जितने भी हमारे यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं कभी भी आएँ और आके देखें कि एक चैरिटेबल संस्था, एक चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट तो सभी हैं, लेकिन ट्रस्ट के अंदर लोकतंत्र तरीके से क्या काम होता है कि हर 6 साल के बाद, 3 साल के बाद टीम का बदलना, और उसके बाद एक मेरे जैसे साधारण आदमी का जनरल सेक्रेटरी बनना. बाय इलेक्शन होते हैं, लेकिन इलेक्शन होने के बाद फिर काम में लग जाते हैं. तो पूरे कोविड के दौरान जब ऑक्सीजन की बहुत कमी थी, मैं पूरी दिल्ली सरकार की भी, भारत सरकार ने जो मदद की ऑक्सीजन के मामले में, और उसके बाद जो पीपल एंड पीपल कंपनी ने हमारे को एक ऑक्सीजन का जो बड़ा टैंक जो नीड थी, नीड की चीज़ दिलाई, इसके लिए पुण्य आप सभी का धन्यवाद. और आप आएँ और एक बार ऐसी दिल्ली के अंदर ही एक बहुत बड़ा पंजाबी बाग में और रोनी में हम चला रहे हैं, और एक बहुत बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी लगभग ये 3 लाख गज के अंदर हम भादरगढ़ बना रहे हैं. तो आप सभी आमंत्रित हैं, आकर देखें कि एक छोटे छोटे लोग मिलकर भी बहुत काम कर रहे हैं. धन्यवाद. जय हिंद, जय भारत.
धन्यवाद सर. Thank you, Naresh Arenji. Now I would like to call upon Neetaji, if you want to say something. Vinay sir is here, Dr. Vinay from GTB. If you want to say something, LG is here. एंड ऑल्सो जैसे नरेश शरण जी बोल रहे थे कि हमारे यहाँ वो ऑक्सीजन टैंक लगाया, ऑल थैंक्स टू हीरो मोटो कॉर्प लिमिटेड, वीरेंद्र शक्तावत जी हु इज़ हियर, थैंक यू सर फॉर बीइंग हियर. सर विनय जी कुछ 2 शब्द बोलेंगे.
सर गुड आफ्टरनून सर. हमारे सर सीनियर जितने भी हैं उन सभी को नमस्कार, हमारे जितने भी कलीग हैं उन सभी को नमस्कार. मैं जो हमारा दौर था पिछले साल, वो मैं ऊपर वाले से दुआ करता हूँ कि ऐसा दौर हमारे साथ कभी ना आए, क्योंकि उस समय जो हमने देखे दिन वो काफ़ी गंभीर मतलब कष्टदायक थे. उस वैसे माहौल में पीपल टू पीपल हेल्थ फाउंडेशन ने और फिर से जो भी हमारे जो CSR से कॉर्पोरेट हाउसेस थे, जैसे कि LG से हमारे को बहुत ज़्यादा मदद मिली, GTB हॉस्पिटल को स्पेशली. तो वो दिन मैं चाहता हूँ ईश्वर से कि प्रार्थना करता हूँ कि वैसे दिन भगवान कभी ना दिखाएं किसी को भी. और आप लोगों ने बहुत ही अच्छा काम किया और हमें बहुत ही सपोर्ट किया उस बुरे दौर में. इसके लिए आप सभी को हृदय से धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
I would like to call upon Mr. Mukund Garg to please come and say a few words. He is representing Cognizant.
I think first of all I would like to really thank PPHF for honoring Cognizant, and truly a privilege to be here. I would also say that I think at the time of COVID, when we really went about searching for NGOs to partner with, I think PPHF was truly standing out on multiple dimensions. One being really grassroots understanding of what is needed at that time, the specific equipment needed by whom at what time. That was one. Second, very good connect with, I think all of you, it's very evident, with the hospitals, with the public health providers, because they had truly that informal connect in terms of who needs what. And third, most importantly, also very good connect with the various ministries and the state governments and the government entities, because all these things need to come together to really make an impact on the society, because Cognizant or any other corporate can give money or equipment, but to make sure it is really used by the people who need it most, and at the time it is really needed, we need really good NGOs like PPHF. So truly again thank you, and look forward to working with PPHF in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukund sir. So we have like 60 seconds for if someone wants to say anything, or else Dr. Palo, please, will give the concluding remarks, sir, please.
Thank you everyone, and I know that many of our partners are missing, and we supported almost 20 states in India during COVID across country. Yeah. So thank you for all your support, our donors and the partners who really supported us during that critical time. And I was just asking my team how many hospitals that we have supported. It's a little surprising to me also. More than 130 hospitals in India we have supported. That's a great kind of work. And thank you our partners, and mostly to the government hospitals, most of them are few charitable hospitals, but mostly the tier 1 cities and even on the tier 2 cities, because in second wave we found a lot of challenges, like a lot of corporate supports were coming to the tier 1 cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune, those cities. But tier 1, there are few kind of challenges we had in the beginning, but thank you, many of our partners really focus for tier 2. So that's a great support, and thank you for that. 4.5 million people we influence directly or indirectly through our programs, because that's a great support again. And 5 things we focused more, because we as one of the early responder to the COVID, because of our international and other experience in our team. So that really helped us. The disaster management experience of PPHF, that really helped. 5 areas, the health system strengthening, like even somewhere developing the isolation wards, the complete wards and quarantine centers, training of health functionaries, That was very important. And hygiene promotion, hand washing. I think with all our partners, we directly reached hand washing practices, almost 11 lakhs children and mothers in direct, means demonstration. We are not talking about the social media and others. That's a great contribution by some of our international and other development partners like Save the Children and others. The other and Unilever, kind of really supported us on that greatly. Providing safety kits to community and psychosocial support. That was in migrant worker we worked. There are many corporate support that we received for the migrant workers, tribal areas, the vaccination drive in the hard to reach areas and more vulnerable populations like truck drivers, like tribal areas where less access, those kind of supports also came during the vaccine period. So all these 5 areas really was great support, and thank you for your generous donations, and we together made a big impact during this unprecedented time, and thank you for all your support, and it's really a great impact to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Palo, for your concluding remarks. I just want to check if Mr. Phaldesai from Wipro GE is here, because he was supposed to make it, but I think he couldn't. So I also have a list of hospitals who couldn't be here, and RML Hospital, Safdarjung Hospital, and then we have Sir C.V. Raman General Hospital, Bangalore, Indira Gandhi Institute of Child Health, Bangalore, Government HSIS, Gosha Hospital, Bangalore, Victoria Hospital, Bangalore. So Yadiyuru Dispensary, BMP, Bangalore, and 9 other PHCs. They couldn't be here, but they have extended their greetings to us. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and being a part for this, as I say, a short but a special event. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting the hospitals. So I want to thank both the sides, the donors as well as the hospitals, for coming together and doing something substantial which has made a mark, and we can see. So thank you again. Please enjoy your lunch. Thank you so much. So lunch के बाद आप सभी लोग आ जाइएगा, फिर 2 बजे हमारा we will have the field learnings. We have 3 tracks, one NCD, non-communicable disease, then we have MNCHN and WASH from 3 to 4:30. So please come back by 2 o'clock. See you by 2 o'clock. Thank you so much, everyone.